Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main stage for our final session of the day. So I'm excited. And we have Yemi with us, so this is going to be good. So we've been ending each day with what we call our campfire chat, and essentially it's just a way for us to gather all at the same stage. I know we've been hopping around into different rooms, going to different sessions, but meeting back on this main stage to close out our day with like a conversation, but also a conversation that'll leave us somewhat inspired and like ready to do work. So yesterday we kind of talked about how do we build the cities that we deserve. And today we're going to talk about harnessing the power of the people. So I'm Ngozi Odita, and I am founder of AfricaNXT and organizer of this event. And I'm here with Yemi. And so why I thought that she was so perfect. So the topic today is harnessing the power of the people. And the reason why we're gathering for this event is just like for expressly that reason. Like we had so many interactive sessions where we were like workshopping and working on problems and thinking about how do we solve challenges that we have. And that's like people coming together to solve issues and like us harnessing our energy to like make something productive happen. And so much of the work that needs to happen across the continent is about that. So when I was thinking of who do I know in my network of people who like that's their work, Yemi came to mind, and Enough is Enough, and 11 years of like doing this work cannot be easy. So I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about the work that you do and have been doing.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me. Really, unfortunately, I wish I had been able to participate in the conversations early in the day, but it's been crazy. Anyway, I currently lead the team at Enough is Enough Nigeria. My t-shirt says Enough is Enough. And was an organization that wasn't planned. 11 years ago, the president of Nigeria at the time was sick. And we didn't know where he was. There were rumors that he had died, rumors that he was brain dead. At the time, there were killings in Jos that, compared to what's going on now, was at that time was child's play compared to now, but then it was a big deal. And there was force scarcity. So in January of that year, Tunde Bakare, under the banner of Save Nigeria Group, had organized a protest that had Wole Soyinka, himself, I believe Femi Falana, and a few others. And they were basically trying to say that, look, if the country doesn't have a president, the constitution allows for the vice president to be made acting president. So rather than this just not doing anything, let's get that show on the road. February of that year, about the same time, Ngozi Odita, who is now Director General at the World Trade Organization, was keynote speaker for the Future Awards hosted by the Future Project, headed by Chude and Debola Williams. And Ngozi Odita basically said that young people own Nigeria's future because we're the largest voting demographic. And in a sense, whatever we decided we wanted, we could get because we had the numbers. So a combination of NOI's statements plus the combination of the president being missing, Chude Jidonwo then wrote an email to a few friends. And the title of the email was, "Where is the outrage?" And his point was basically that, look, we can't continue to watch the likes of Wole Soyinka protest about the Nigeria that they have fewer years to spend in relative to our generation. And that put in machinery, a process for protest that happened on March 16, 2011, or 2010 rather, and in Abuja, was followed by another one in April in Lagos to Governor Fashola at the time as a message to his colleagues at governors. So after the protest, there was a lot of conversation around, okay, do we protest every time we're upset, or what are we going to do? 2011 was an election year, so the conversation became, why don't we harness all this energy to help young Nigerians make better decisions around elections? So we coined the campaign RSVP, register, select credible candidates, vote, and protect your vote, RSVP. And we ran the campaign in 2011. We hired staff in January. The main program manager quit in February. Elections were in April. And since at that time, when I came back in 2010 at the protest, I'd just come back from business school. I was doing my youth service. I had quite a bit of time on my hands. So a friend of mine just said, would you like to go to a protest? I was like, yes, that sounds great. So I flew to Abuja for the protest. And afterwards, since I had time, I just sort of helped with admin stuff. So fast forward to 2011, program manager quits. Election is in February. Election is in April. The team said, Yemi, would you run enough is enough through elections? And then after that, we'll hire somebody else. 10 years later, hire somebody else. I'm still here. But it's been quite an interesting journey over the last decade. And at the core of what as I said, it wasn't a planned organization. So as we've sort of walked through the years, what we've landed on is that regardless of what we complain about outside, citizens have incredible power. And that power is harnessed collectively. It's not one person can't do it, and that's clear. So what we've committed to doing over the years is educating citizens, not just voter education to go out and vote on election day, but also civic education. What is your role as a citizen? What are your rights and your responsibilities? Paying tax is a responsibility of citizenship, but you have a right to water and you have a right to education. So your rights and responsibilities, that falls under civic education. But also, I guess, now we're shifting a bit more into sort of political education and letting Nigerians understand the political context of Nigeria, the political structure of Nigeria, especially now where a lot of people are disgruntled about sort of North-South dynamics, the role of religion, the role of ethnicity, so that they understand the history of Nigeria that has brought us to this point, and some of the instruments like the Constitution that a lot of people are talking about, what the challenges are, and as a people, what we need to do to engage the institutions for better outcomes. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Well, it's 11 years, so it should be a lot. It should be a lot. So I think like 2020 has like so much of what transpired from the pandemic to just civil unrest, inequity, just all around the world. Yeah. So much of it made the importance of people and working together like so apparent. Like our interconnectedness, even the fact of the virus being able to spread from people to people, that connection and the fact that we truly we impact one another. And if we are not aware of like how we impact one another and how we can also affect change, right? Simply by wearing masks and doing different things, we are affecting change that impacts other people. But I think also like in 2020, we saw people coming together, right? Just from NSARS in Nigeria to
Black Lives Matter
in South Africa, Black Lives Matter in the US and in Europe. You just really saw around the world, people began to come together and organize. So it's just this idea of harnessing the people was just so apparent in 2020. And even now, things are still a mess now across the continent, everywhere. So when you think about like, how do you engage community and people? You spoke a little bit about it by saying just how diverse Nigeria is. How do you get people to like unite around common cause? Because there's so much diversity in who we are and like what we want. Like, what has been effective for you in getting people to like come together on issues, even though they're so different?
Well, when I started this journey, some things for me just made rational sense. So if you don't have water, don't have electricity, have bad roads, there are people elected to fix those things. So you let them know that they're not doing their jobs. And if they don't respond, you vote them out of office or find other ways to deal with them, quote unquote. But what I realized, it took me a while, but what I realized was that people can't make demands on what they don't know is going on. So a big part especially within the context of Nigeria, is just a lot of education for people to understand that when a politician says he's done a road, it's not an opportunity for dancing. It's not an opportunity for celebrating him as if he's done, like, I don't know, solved Einstein's formula or something. He hasn't done anything that's rocket science. He's simply just done his job. Now, if we have employees, we commend them on a job well done, but we're not going oohing and ahhing that, oh my God, he did his job. That is so amazing. No, you're paid to do your job. It's good. Yeah, you did a good job. Yes, I'll commend that. So getting citizens to understand that has really been huge, and getting them to understand the agency that they have. Yes, we might have different needs depending on where we are in the country, your socioeconomic status. So I might because I fly, my experience at the airport might be priority. But for someone who takes public transportation and has never been on a plane, that's not his priority. Maybe cheap transportation fares, like bus fares rather, or good roads generally would be his priority. So in the sort of spectrum, it might differ. But I believe ultimately we all want security. We all want the ability and the environment to fulfill our potential. So if I want to go to school, let me be able to go to school without needing to know someone or needing to have so much money in the bank. If I'm applying for the job, let me know that it's based on my merit, on what I bring to the table, not if my last name is Ojo or Azan or Okoro or who I know or don't know. And those are the things ultimately that I believe bind us together, a desire for equity, a desire for justice, and that is a common denominator. So in the work to get us to work together, a lot has been done to divide using ethnicity and religion and things of that nature. So to unpack that, there has to be a lot more work to educate, and we're just simply not doing that work because within our formal education structures, we're not being taught civic education. Particularly, people don't understand Nigeria's history. And then outside formal education, a lot of people are educated sort of one-on-one. So if you're educating me, Ngozi, and you're not broad-minded, you will teach me your biases. You will pass on your own flaws, what your perceptions are, even if they're ignorant to me. And I hold that as fact. I mean, I've been in conversations with Nigerians and they're speaking very passionately about what Tinubu did and what Babangida did and the kinds of things those sort of Nigeria's political figures have done. And I'm like, were you in the room? Did you know someone that was actually in the room? And the answer is always no. But they say it with such passion, such belief that it then the process of sort of helping them unpack the layers of lies by starting point where, okay, you were not in the room, right? You agree you were not in the room. Okay, good. Can I show you facts? On January 1, 1981, this is what happened. So if this happened, what you are saying could possibly not have happened. So can we talk about it based on facts? And that takes time. It takes a lot of, yes, we can do large gatherings, we can do stuff on radio, we can do stuff with TV, we can do stuff on social media. But ultimately, the ability for people to ask questions, as you said, you've been talking about physical meetings and what technology has helped us do, but also the limits of sort of physical meetings, of not having physical meetings. That goes a long way. So it's just recognizing that we, at a certain level, want the same things. We might be different as we are, but at a certain level, we all want the same thing.
Right. And a lot of like, you kind of keep kind of coming back. Like you talked about agency and also like our roles, our individual roles in this. And that kind of brings us to like this concept that is the office of the citizen. So if you can explain what that is, because a lot of it is like you yourself, like we can make complaints, but you yourself, what is your role? So maybe tell us about that.
Sure. As I said, it took me a while because I just thought it kind of made sense. But once I realized that one, information is missing, and then two, unfortunately, the construct of our daily lives as Nigerians is just very difficult for a lot of people. So people wake up very early, trying to make a living. So the idea of adding more to it is just a lot. So you just brace yourself to deal with whatever is around you and survive, and just try whatever you can to survive. And it's a false narrative that we've convinced ourselves that it's too expensive in terms of time and resources to hold government accountable. So we try to do every other thing but do that. There's a joke in Nigeria, I mean, within at least some circles, you say that you're a one-man local government. So you provide water for yourself by digging a borehole. You have a generator, you generate your own power. You have a security guard at your gate, so you're providing your own security. You dispose of your own waste. So you have private contractors who pick up waste. You send your children to public schools. You have private healthcare. So all of those things that are technically social services that I've listed, not one of them is provided by the government of Nigeria. So we've convinced ourselves that if we're able to get the resources to provide those things ourselves, we're doing good. Now, what invariably happens is you've allowed government to abdicate its role, so they don't believe they owe you anything because you're not asking them to do anything, and it continues that way. So 5 years ago, when we turned 5, or 6 years ago now, we launched the concept of the Office of the Citizen. It was actually first written about by a professor in Syracuse in the 1920s.
Oh,
But
wow.
we heard it from Antiobi Ezekwesili at an event in 2014, was when I heard it for the first time. And it just resonated with me because it was just like, aha, if citizens don't realize, if citizens do realize the power that they have, then the dynamics of power will shift. So we've basically just started talking about the fact that, yes, the office of the president might be the highest political office, but the office of the citizen is the highest office across offices. Because if not for you, President Buhari doesn't have a job, because his job is to work for me. So one of the analogies I like to give is people should think about public servants as their employees. So if you have an employee that doesn't come to work, that is not doing anything on their deliverables, but every month their salary is, you pay them in full, pension is complete, all their entitlements that they get, health insurance is tight, everything is good. If they have a car allocation, they have it, whatever it is that is their entitlement from the organization, they get it, regardless of if they're delivering or not. So if we think of government officials in that sense, then we're literally allowing our employees to get away with not doing anything, and we're not saying anything.
Right.
And so if we begin to think of them a bit differently, that power dynamic in our minds needs to change, so that when, yes, because of their office, we give them the respect of their office. I mean, I remember a protest for Bring Back Our Girls, which will be, interestingly, 7 years next week. I remember when we went to the when we went to the National Assembly, Antiobi was very clear that we needed to respect the office of the men we met at the National Assembly. All of us were livid. We were ready to sort of rain curses on all of them. But she was just really very clear that as angry as we might be, respect the office of the Senate president. It's an office. And so we needed to sort of approach the office in that. And I remember that lesson because, yes, I've been angry quite a number of times. But Nigerians I believe, tend to take that a bit too far. So in our respect of the office, we then don't speak. And also, I mean, I say this quite a bit, that part of it is also a couple of things. One, our culture. I'm a Yoruba girl. So there's a culture of deference to people who are older than you. So when it now comes to political office holders, it's kind of hard to say, well, uncle, that 20 million naira, I'm just kind of wondering, where is it? What did you do with it? It's kind of hard to have those conversations, but they're conversations that must be had, because if you see them as an employee, he's no longer uncle. He's your employee that might have stolen 100 million naira from your company. You need to have that conversation.
Right.
And then there's religion as well. That for a lot of people, we just are waiting for God to just solve everything. So it's even in our language. God will do it. God did. God is in control. So in saying those types of things, we also abdicate responsibility, because we just trust God to make it okay. But trust us, God is not. God is busy with world peace. He's busy.
Yeah. So I think even like looking back at last year and just even this year, there's so much happening in Nigeria, across Africa, just everywhere. And it really feels as if our governments, I mean, clearly are not serving the people. But there's been so many instances where it's just so stark, whether, it's the Lekki toll gate, whether it's in Uganda and Bobby Wine supposed to be elected and it's like, you're not elected. Whether it's just a few weeks ago in Senegal and like all the unrest there around so it just feels like you can be so demoralized because you're like, time and time again, the government is not working. And when we try and get it to work and take agency and hold our office of being citizens, we hold that in high regard and we do it, nothing happens. Worse, some people get hurt. So in all of that, like, how do you find hope to continue to do the work? Because it's very demoralizing. People are like, I'm not doing it. I'm leaving the country. How many people say that? So how do you, are you able to say, you know what, I'm going to stay here. Like, I'm hopeful that we can continue to make a difference?
Well, two things. One of the things I've come to terms with, people are leaving in droves. There's Canada. I just saw a flyer that Dubai is doing how to move to Dubai and work. I'm like, Lord have mercy. Dubai is recruiting. Oh, Lord. Anyway, I think one major thing, let me put it in context, that has helped me, because I used to be very frustrated because I just thought it made sense. We hold these people accountable. The truth of the matter is that there's not enough of us that are in the office of the citizen. For a country as large as Nigeria, and as where the institutions are as broken as they are, there are not a lot of us who are occupying our office of the citizen. A second bit is that a lot of us are also not honest with ourselves. Part of Nigeria's dysfunction we see as efficiency. So we're willing to bypass sort of proper protocol because the country has made it cheaper. Actually, no, it's made it easier. It's usually more expensive, but it's made it easier to not do things the right way. So it then becomes very difficult to, in one vein, want to get your license without sitting for a driver's license test or entering any physical office, but a license appears on your table. It's very difficult to want to do that or want to have the benefit of that and then be complaining that the systems are dysfunctional. If the system was not dysfunctional, your license cannot appear in your office.
Right.
So when those things, so it affects how we do engage. I keep saying that we're not as honest as we should be. There's a viral video of a popular pastor there's a video that's gone viral by a popular pastor that's just talking about how the total number of people who are holding the country to ransom are about 1,000 people. We need to tell them the truth. We need to tell them enough is enough. He actually used the word enough is enough. Yep. And he did some name calling of some particular individuals across the country. And it was interesting because I was chatting in a group earlier. I said, well, he said enough is enough 11 years ago. But what I found fascinating about it was that because he is a popular pastor, the video is going viral. There's nothing he's saying that's new. Nothing that Pastor is saying that's new. But because it's him, he's a religious leader, he's a man of influence, and as a person, he's also a very well-liked person. So he's a people person. He went to KC, so he knows a lot of people know him. And when I say a lot of people, I mean in business, in government, he's quite known. So I think for why it's going viral is that for someone of his caliber to be making these statements that all of us know, people are excited. Same thing for NSARS. NSARS was about a particular issue, police brutality, which a lot of people had experienced. But the root cause of it is bad governance. But people got excited about NSARS because there was a protest. We shut down Lekki toll gate. It was exciting. People were on the streets. Yes, but then there's work to be done. The police have to be reformed. It's not magic. And we're seeing that energy is dissipating because there's a part of us that we pray, even in our prayer, for those who are people of faith, we pray for a Messiah. So we just pray that one person would arrive and just go, and everything will go back, like factory setting. We joke about it. So Nigeria needs to be reset or needs to be rebooted, or whatever it is. But yeah, unfortunately, that's just not the case. And the more of us just really need to get engaged. And it's not, and I'm clear about this, this is not a call for people to be activists or protest or whatever people call those things. It's for people to be active citizens. It's to be responsible. It's in your places of work, in your communities, in your estates, to do the right things and hold duty bearers accountable so that people know that there's a cost for bad behavior. Because right now, it's almost as if we celebrate when people take shortcuts, when people get things done without following the right process. And we must realize that it's not just about that one thing. It's it's a marker for what we do in the country and what's happening in the country. So yeah, a lot of us just need to be a bit more honest about what we want.
Somebody mentioned in the comments, they said it's cheaper to not follow protocol.
So it's cheaper in time. It might cost you money. It might
Right,
cost you
but it's convenient. It's convenient. It's convenient. So how do you deal with that? Or do you just say that's the way it is? Because I think, like you said, it's very easy to do things in a way that we know we shouldn't do it, right? We get things done. We can go to the business office and get our business certificate, like we can, and we're like, I got what I needed, right? We're feeling like we're getting what we needed by taking these shortcuts. But what it does is it reinforces the bad governance. They're like, well, everybody's just doing it this way. You people are enjoying yourselves. You're doing it this way. So what do we do about that? Or do we just say that's the way it is? I think like that's the struggle that people have, because people want to believe that it might get better. But really what you're saying and what we're discussing is a lot of that's us. Like, we want it to be better, but a lot of it's us, because we don't really want to do the difficult part of saying, like, things are going to be hard then.
Yeah, indeed. And that's the challenge of the Office of the Citizen, recognizing what that means. And I mean, and to be honest, it's not, I don't expect that in every area that we will all suddenly follow protocol, because part of it really might be a loss of life. And that's really the extreme end of, if you do things in Nigeria's inefficient way, somebody might die. So that's not to say that in everything everybody should do things by the book, but there are circumstances and opportunities that allow us to play by the book. And if we do have the time, I mean, some of the things that I've done is just to realize that, you know what, I'm going to devote time, and know when I get into it that it's going to take time if I want to get this thing done the right way. Or the other side of it is also going that it's not just me. So doing things in groups as well. So it's much more difficult for whoever the person is to make it difficult. A third point is also reporting and sort of naming and shaming. A gentleman copied me in an email, for example, 2 days ago, that he had sent to, now, we're supposed to get our national ID cards. Yeah. And in the process of doing that, to make it faster, they've licensed private operators to register citizens. Okay. He took his friend to one of the facilities in Abuja, and he was asked to pay 1,000 naira for the process. And he was like, but this is not correct. Okay, for example, it's not a lot of money, 1,000 naira. So, and I think also that's part of the psychology of this thing. You think it's 1,000 naira, I can't be bothered here. But he was like, no, this is not correct. He took the man up on it. The man took back the slip and tore it and said, when you are ready to pay 1,000 naira, come back. So he wrote an email to NIMSI, copied me, and he got a response from NIMSI. And they said they were going to look into it and thanked him for reporting. Now we're following the story. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes and if they do change that. But it also lets you know how, if somebody's collecting 1,000 naira, you think, and that's the thing about cheaper, you think about it in the grand scheme of making a fuss, reporting, and you're like, 1,000 naira, you know what, have it. And we move on. So sometimes it's those types of things. Sometimes you pay the money and you move on. You might pay it to get your slip and then report and say, look, I paid. A friend of mine, Jumoke Oduwole, actually runs Nigeria's Ease of Doing Business platform. And they created a platform where people can report NDAs. And people have reported getting responses, either reporting that they got bad customer service, no information, But again, it takes time. It takes an effort to commit to doing that. But let's not forget, that's one stream of it in when you engage government institutions. The other stream that we pay more attention to is elections. And that's what gets people really excited and really good. And that's a place that we actually have direct influence in paying attention. There was an election in Aba 2 weeks ago. There was 3% voter turnout. 500,000 registered voters. 16,000 people showed up. So the man that was voted is going to sit in the House of Representatives and make decisions about that. First of all, he will think that he doesn't owe any of you because only 16,000 of you showed up. So yeah, the rest of you can go and jump off somewhere. Now the rest of you also that didn't show up, probably also don't think he owes you anything, so you don't engage him either. So it's a lose-lose situation for everybody. So if we paid more attention to not only the people we elect into office, but also when they get there, holding them accountable. Let me end on this story that makes me really excited. A couple of years ago, we were doing a constitutional amendment. By the provisions to amend our constitution, 2/3 of the National Assembly have to vote. And so because you need to count 2/3, the normal A and nay that they do doesn't work. They actually have to vote so they can count the number of people. So a gentleman from my state, Ondo State, voted in support of child marriage. His constituency called him back home and was like, okay, what happened? How are you voting in support of child marriage? Are you okay? He lay prostrate on the floor and begged them and said he was sorry that he must have dozed off or he wasn't paying attention, that he didn't mean to vote that way. For me, that is an awesome example of the power of the office of the citizen. That is just amazing. Now, two things that have come out of that. One, it shows the power. But two, it also lets us know why the National Assembly has continued to fight against using electronic voting for things that are so for the Constitution, it's required by law. But every other thing, there's no law that requires it. So that's why they say all in favor say A, all in favor say I, and they can get away with that because they realize that once their votes are documented, the constituents can hold them to that. We're still pushing and we will get there. They think they'll get away, but we'll get there. So those are the types of things for me that show the power that citizens have. But again, it's collective. If one person had summoned him, unless the person is maybe the Oba of the town or whatever, it won't have the same impact. But they had a town hall meeting and they asked him to come and defend his votes. That's the power we have that we don't use as much as we should. Can't hear you. You're muted.
That always happens, doesn't it? On this virtual world. So you kind of took us through like kind of the history of your work and giving us lots of insight. It's 11 years worth of kind of like insight and just, just work that you've been doing. What do you like the next 11 years? Like, what is that? Because there's so much, it can feel very burdensome. There's a lot to be done still. So it's not like, oh, EIE, we're, in 2 years, we know we'll be done here. Right, the next 11, 20, 30. So the next 11 years for like EIE, what does that look like? Like, what are your hopes or what are some things that you are looking to see happen 11 years from now?
Right. A big thing really is to make the organization a bit stronger. As I said, it wasn't planned. So year on year, we've sort of kind of made it up as we've gone along. Like, okay, what are we doing this year? All right. But now I think there's a lot of clarity around our posture as an organization and the programs that we want to drive. So that's been rewarding. Secondly, a louder conversation that I'm having around getting Nigerians, especially middle-class Nigerians, to understand that, as they've seen with NSAS, any meaningful movement or platform for change requires funding. So we must be willing to put our money where our mouth is and not just talk about, wanting things to change. It's not by magic. You don't educate by magic. You don't have radio programs by magic. You don't print flyers by magic. You don't hire staff by magic. You don't run an office by magic. I'm sure you can relate. You need resources to do this thing. So again, beyond the talking, being ready to put our money where our mouth is. Thirdly, working myself out of a job and sort of transitioning to the next things. But part of working myself out of a job is ensuring that EIE does stand. Because as you said, there is a lot of work to be done. And I mean, I asked the question earlier about what gives me hope. I'm a woman of faith. And for me, that's a huge part of the work that I do. Just not only believing about my own purpose and my own journey, but in this season of my life is tied to EIE. But believing very strongly around the fact that Nigeria is blessed. And Nigeria's role on the continent and in the world is undisputed. I mean, I don't know any country that has the human resources and the material resources that Nigeria has. Now, we've managed to mismanage all of the above, but there's still things under the ground, and there's still Nigerians globally that would come home in a heartbeat if there was an enabling environment for them to thrive. Which is why when people talk about, oh, Nigeria and people leaving the country, in the past, I would feel bad that people were leaving. I still feel bad now, but I also recognize that there's some people who, if they don't leave Nigeria, they cannot fulfill their potential. That Nigeria, as it's currently structured, will stifle what they're able to accomplish with either their gifts, their talents, and whatever that. So yeah, it's really, really that ensuring AI is sustainable to continue to do the work that's required to be done, and working myself out of my, I guess, personal, not AI, but my personal role, and transition into other stuff.
So, I mean, I wanted to end to find out from you, because I think so many people listening could benefit to find out, like, this is difficult work without a doubt. And what inspires you? Like, what do you look to for inspiration? You kind of said your faith, but is there anything else that for you, like, that you go to for inspiration, whether it's like, are there books that you read or anything you do that keeps you like charged to like do the work?
I mean, one of the conversations I have with God is that this wouldn't have been a path I would have chosen for myself. Yeah, I'm very passionate about Nigeria. I grew up in a university campus, and I loved Nigeria growing up. Nigeria I loved my environment. I loved my friends, family, whatever. But so my conviction about Nigeria would have been, in a sense, something I did on the side. So I would work full time doing something else and then donate time volunteering or doing whatever. The fact that in this season is something that I do full time has made me explore my faith a lot more, and trying to understand sort of purpose as it's tied into God's sort of master plan for the earth, God's plan for Nigeria. A lot of for those who I'm Christian by faith, a lot of prophecies that have been said about Nigeria and things that would happen in Nigeria, what that means. As a Christian, there are things embedded in our belief around how God works, how God speaks, how God shows you things that is to come, and how that then manifests in reality. So sort of that journey of things that I believe or that I've seen, and sort of seeing them come into, that I saw years ago, see them come into pass now, all keep me sort of intrigued by how this puzzle called Nigeria would sort of be arranged to make some sense. Because right now it's not making much sense at all.
So I have one other question, what you said, one other question, because you spoke more than once about like this transitioning out, like, okay, like this is like transitioning out. What would you tell like younger people who feel like they want to do this work and like dedicate their time in their life? What's like one piece of advice you would give them that you've learned, something that sticks with you from doing this 11 years?
Whoa. Honestly, do it not because you think it's cute, or because you think it will get you A or B or C. There are a lot of people that have interned or sort of wanted to intern at EIE Nigeria, or have reached out and wanted advice, and they've wanted to set up their own nonprofits. And I'm always asking why. Why, if you're really passionate, why not find an organization that is doing work you enjoy and just join them and learn and contribute to what work they're doing in that regard? You're young, it's hard work leading a nonprofit, you have to fundraise, you have to blah, 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 blah. But what I've realized over and over again is they were more interested in being called founder or CEO or MD in enterprise. So it wasn't necessarily about doing the work or contributing their skills, their talents to whatever work is being done, but it was because they wanted to be in charge of their own space. So for any young person who wants to, be honest with yourself about why. Being CEO is fine, but just be clear that that's why you're doing the work. So don't be surprised if you get frustrated, because if CEO is what you're looking for, you will be frustrated eventually, because it's not, CEO doesn't pay bills, really doesn't. Because ultimately, at least for me, that is what has helped me a lot. Just a personal conviction that I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing in this season. And when things are hard, I'll just tell God that I did not give myself work. You are the one that gave me work. So please, can we make this thing make some sense? I'm not understanding what's going on here.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I would say. And I really, if you really want to and want to do that work, even if you end up being CEO, invest, even if it's a year, 2 years, in working for someone else, working in an organization, just to learn and understand, so that you understand that the glitter you see outside takes a lot of work behind the scenes, and you can
Yeah.
click what you're doing and what you want to do. And also, sorry, let me just add one more thing. As you plan for it as well, also think through, don't think for now. Think sort of as your short-term, medium, and long-term plans. Unfortunately, we lost one of the leaders in the CSO space on Sunday, Innocent Chukwuma, and that's one of the things that has been celebrated about him, because Innocent started an organization focused on security reform, police reform, and he transitioned. He retired. The organization has a new ED. And if not, I think he's probably one of the sort of major ones, an organization of that size that has started it, left it, and somebody else is running it before, and did it in, I think he left like 10 years ago or whatever, how many years ago he left, in well enough time to have a second phase of his life. So you think about it that way as well, that it's not, you have to think legacy, that allow other people to come in and take over from you as well.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you for giving your time. You are busy. Before we came on, I was like, you're doing these virtual events, all these talks. It seems like every single week you have a series of talks happening. So I'm grateful that you were able to come and just share your insight with your work. We're here. We're all just trying to build a better country and a better Africa. So thank you for being a part of this work. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this conversation. And everybody go to the expo and explore the page and everything. And thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everyone.